Hello everyone, my name is Pedro Rodriguez and I'm a candidate for my doctoral degree in transformational leadership with Bakke Graduate University. And this project that we're working on is going to tell the story of the impact that a mentor can make on youth that are fatherless, that have been negatively impacted by the lack of a father, and how many of them end up in the juvenile justice system and suffer negative consequences. And we try to come in and give them hope and give them the practical tools, teach them and train them to become leaders, to become successful, to become all what God created them to be.
Sad to say, it's amazing the impact that kids have to suffer through with the absence of a father in the home. I don't know the exact percentage, but many of our kids that we serve come from these homes that, with the father not being there, some of the problems that they have, and not always just a negative aspect, but just them trying to fill that role before they're ready to fill that role, end up getting in trouble, making poor decisions without having that mentor or father figure over them to guide them and show them the right way.
My experience growing up without a father, it led me down a path that I did not want to go down. I'm a firm believer of if the dad is not in the home, the child is more likely to go astray and do things that he has no business. There's no accountability, there's no guidelines, there's no structures. It's just off the edge. So it led me to drugs, it led me to money, chasing women, stealing cars, playing with firearms, and much more.
Fatherlessness is actually an epidemic. It's been something that's been plaguing our society for many years. But speed it up to today's time, we're looking at 85% of youth that are incarcerated come from homes that don't have a father. Or they come from homes that the father is in the house, but they're not engaged. So a lot of what we're seeing is low self-esteem, inconsiderate of self, and inconsiderate of other people. And there's nobody in their home to give them structure or direction. So the lack of a father creates them to have this low self-esteem about themselves, which transfers to making bad decisions, right? They have no one else to have an example on what to do and what not to do. So a lot of our youth suffer from what I call ABT, which means ain't been taught. So as a father myself, I take that as a challenge, right? To go in and to implement some of those skills that I've learned through my relationship with Christ and also through my father to help them to form structure and to guide them the right way. So again, fatherlessness can go in so many different areas, right? Where we can look at it in the criminal justice system, we can look at it in schools, how their behaviors are impacted, we can look on their education, we can look on how they treat others, especially women, right? Because they don't have a father to show them how to respect and treat women. So a lot of different ills in society are caused because of not having a father in the household.
Safe and Sound is the Violence Prevention Collaborative of Hillsborough County. It brings together the efforts of most of our button-pushing agencies in the county. So from the Board of County Commissioners, the cities, the police chiefs, and the mayors of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, State Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, the 13th Judicial Circuit, our Clerk of Court, our school district, the Sheriff's Office, and the Children's Board. So all those agencies came together to take a public health approach of reducing violence, community violence. It started in the aftermath of the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut at Sandy Hook Elementary. A county commissioner by the name of Kevin Beckner at that time wanted to pull together a think tank of individuals from all sectors to answer the question, what can we do to make sure that we prevent community violence here in Hillsborough County? That started back in 2014, and right around 2016, we got about the work of Safe and Sound, focusing on one, making sure that kids felt safe in their community, in their neighborhoods, in their schools, and two, that people felt connected to services, to law enforcement agencies, and also other organizations that could plug in and help get the work move forward. Over the last couple of years, though, we've really been thrust into the space of helping our juvenile population, specifically our boys, and making sure that, one, they feel valued, two, that if they've made mistakes and they're in our juvenile justice system, that we can get them routed out of that. And then three, if they're at risk of getting into the juvenile justice space, how do we get to them as early as possible so that they don't make those mistakes?
My wife and I live in an inner city environment that has a higher rate of fatherlessness, a geographic area that has a higher rate of fatherlessness than most of the surrounding city. So we live just outside of downtown in a neighborhood that has the highest saturation of government subsidized housing. It's the projects. So it's Section 8 housing, over 900 living units of government subsidized housing. And so that area that we live in is saturated with youth, like lots and lots of families that live in those units, those apartments and townhouses. And we've been able to interact with a lot of the kids in the area. And it is an area that has a high degree of fatherlessness. And that higher degree of fatherlessness in our area does correlate to some situations of higher crime in 18 and under, in the 18 and under population. Not necessarily violent crime, but theft, petty theft, and noise complaints, and a lot of those kinds of situations. There is some, we're not sure to what degree, but there's a lot of like gang affiliation in those neighborhoods. We haven't interacted a ton with that.
When you look at violence prevention, you have so many things that play into that. One, you have to look at thrusting mental health and mental wellness at the forefront of every conversation. So we do that by providing mental health first aid training for free to individuals and organizations all throughout the county. We make sure that we keep people connected. It's not that services may not exist, it's people don't know how to access them. So we have directories and programs that show people the services that are needed, whether it's for housing assistance or employment or mentorship opportunities or job opportunities all throughout the county. We try to make sure people are connected. We bring people together through events and programs and services that drive a safety message. We're always about education and awareness, especially with what we're seeing right now with all the rise in gun violence, specifically with our kids. We commissioned a short film last year called Blink, and it focuses on the decisions that people are making to pick up firearms and in response to some type of emotional trigger or some temporary situation. We're trying to show that to as many kids as possible. We created a reporting center which serves as a stopgap for kids in our juvenile justice system. When kids commit some offenses, instead of them being confined for 21 days, they can go home, they can go to school, and in the afternoon and evenings we work with these kids. When I say these kids, I'm talking about our young boys who are anywhere between 11 and 18 years of age.
Actually, I received a job back in New York City back in 1989 when I was in college. And it was actually a weekend job working with youth. So my main job was to have fun with the kids, like go out, play basketball with them, just build relationships with them. So I thought that was pretty cool. But to be honest with you, I didn't think I was making a huge impact on them. But to my surprise, every other weekend, they wanted to spend this time with me. So that started off the spark of wanting to build relationships with youth and to really impact them in a positive and powerful way. So as a result, I took my career seriously and I went back to school, and I was given an opportunity to actually run a group home in New York for 11 years for at-risk youth that was dealing with different disorders like depression, suicidal ideations, a lot of trauma, rejection, and things of that nature. But I didn't really start taking it seriously as far as a ministry to probably about 2002 when I relocated out of New York and went to Virginia. The only reason why I took it serious because I had a life experience that I almost lost my life that allowed me to receive Christ in my life. So I started to look at it from the perspective of a godly ministry. So that really sparked me up to continue to further do what I do now. That's to mentor and counsel youth in a biblical context.
Well, as a teenager, I didn't have a mentor. And the way it affected me was just going astray, not following rules, not having nothing to cling on to, not having love, not having support, not having nobody to pat me on my back and tell me when I'm doing a good job, nobody to correct me when I'm making mistakes, you know, in love. As I grew older, my mentor, actually my pastor, Pastor Tommy Cologne in Urban D 813, just being around him picking us up at the age of 13, 14, putting us in the van, bringing us to church, feeding us, pouring the word into us, using music as a tool to just love on us. 20 years later, 20-something years later, you see the fruits. I see the fruits. You know, I'm now serving the Lord and doing His will, like, wholeheartedly.
Oh yes, I experienced fatherlessness in my own life until I was probably a teenager. My mom remarried, and she remarried an awesome man that, you know, showed me and mentored me. But that gap, without having that father figure in the home, it was just the grace of God that myself and my brother, we made some good choices, and we were able to be successful. And I will say this, because of the way I was brought up without the father in the home, I think it's my motivation in this field, working with individuals, and my motivation of being a father myself. Some of those things that my family, that my father missed, whether it's sporting events or tests or just being home to get a hug when you came home from school, I try to make sure that my kids never miss that, and let other kids know that come through that we serve that, hey, it's even though it's not the father, we have males, females here that'll show you that love, that encouragement. And like I said, once they get it, they use it, thrive.
So you've heard stories from directors, youth, and volunteer leaders who have been ravaged by fatherlessness and how faith-based mentorship has changed their lives. I also want to add to the narrative and just continue with that same story, and just tell you a little bit about how fatherlessness affected my life. From the age of 12, I lost my dad due to substance abuse. My mom became depressed, and as a way of numbing the pain, she also became addicted to substances. So during the years that my mother was addicted to drugs, I had to live with my grandmother and be raised by my grandparents for a season. And I was introduced to a different lifestyle in the streets, and began to commit juvenile crimes. And my grades plummeted from A's to F's and got expelled from school. Ended up dropping out of high school, and my life just became a spiral of destruction for the next several years. Became a teen dad, and just complicated my life with poor choice after poor choice. It wasn't until my early 20s that I came to faith and know God and have a relationship with God, and began to cut off friends. And God placed new people in my life, older gentlemen who came alongside me and decided they wanted to pour into me and invest in my life. And it was then that I saw my life change for the better and prosper and experience transformation. And I wouldn't be where I'm today if it wasn't for so many men who came alongside me and taught me how to be a man, how to be a father, how to be a leader. So having faith-based mentors in my life helped me become a better man, a better leader, a better father. Not having a father in my life, there was no picture of what that should look like. These men were the model that I needed. And this is what actually led me to have a passion to work with the youth that I work with and start a nonprofit that aims at mentoring young men in the juvenile justice system and being a support, being a person they can count on, they can call at night, they can come home to when they leave these facilities. And also, this is what also encouraged me to pursue a higher education, go back to school, and not be a statistic, dropping out of high school and just pursuing average jobs, but realizing that God had a purpose, a call for my life, and I wanted to speak into or put my hands to an area of my life that devastated me, which was drug addiction, right? So I became a drug counselor, got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in counseling, and I'm now currently working on this project for my dissertation to be a transformational leader.
I lived in a household where I had a biological father present, but I lived basically fatherless. My dad worked 80 hours a week a lot of the times and spent the night in his office a lot and made an effort. I want to be like came to all of my sports games and tried to be present in my life in ways that mattered, but did not really function as a mentor to me in times of crisis. And when I hit, in my senior year of high school, I hit a time of absolute crisis where I was an alcoholic, I was a drug dealer, I had an addiction to theft, and I had like numerous inappropriate relationships with other women. And it was all hidden, nobody knew, my family didn't know about it. I had kind of lived a double life thing and I kept it pretty private and kept it pretty secret. And I had a situation where it all came out. And I got in trouble with the police, I got caught, and everything came out. And I was in a total life crisis, needed guidance, needed help, needed somebody to just, even if they couldn't help, needed somebody to talk to about it. And I went in the middle of the night, not to my neighbors, not to my parents. I went to the front door of my wrestling coach, because he was the one who, for years, was the one who really tried to position himself in my life as like a spiritual father, that was a safe place for me to ask questions and to seek guidance and advice and wisdom, and to give me the truth and to be direct with me when I needed somebody to be direct with me. And I went to his door, and he put me in his car and just drove me around the town for a couple hours talking it out. And I think that conversation like maybe saved my life. Just to have, and the reality is, part of the reason why urban youth justice needs to exist, and just the issue of mentoring needs to be addressed, is that I actually had a door to go to. Like, I had a person I knew that I could go to, and it saved my life. There are hundreds of kids in your city, in my city, in every neighborhood. When they hit that crisis, they don't just live in a house where they are living like a fatherless family system. They don't have a door to go to. Like, they don't have a mentor or a person or a father figure or a spiritual father to go to in the crisis. That's the point.
I think I was about 13 or 12. I met one of my ex-best friends, and he was my main bad influence. I got pushed into drug game. I got pushed into doing stuff that I shouldn't really be doing. B&E, carjacking, all that type of stuff. The turning point was when I was in my 8th grade year. I got expelled for selling weed on school property. My parents decided that wasn't meant for me, and we all decided that we were gonna move to Florida. Ever since then, I was still expelled from high school, or going on my freshman year. So at the end of my freshman year, I got enrolled into this Horizons Academy youth school. I got offered to go to this Horizons thing replay, and that's where I met Pedro Rodriguez. He helped me through a lot. He helped me get my first job. He invited me to this youth group called Nightlife, and it flipped me. I used to be an atheist, and now I'm Christian. He flipped my whole entire world perspective. He showed me that there's hope outside of what I was doing. At a very young age, my mother got diagnosed with lung cancer, and that was one of the big things that flipped my perspective of God. And luckily, she's recovered today. She's in remission. She's all good, and I thank the Lord for that, 100%. Sibling-wise, I have a very weird relationship with my siblings. 2 of them I don't speak to. 2 of them is kind of off the family. The one above me and the oldest are the 2 really big bad apples. And they've been exiled from the family out of years of trying. My father grew up without a dad. He was fatherless, so whenever he had children, he didn't know how to raise them. We have a very strange relationship where I used to fear my father other than love him. And that kind of shifted as if I wasn't home, I was away and I didn't have to deal with it. If my dad was at work, it was fine, but when he came home, I lived in fear. I can't necessarily blame him because my father is a good man. He just didn't know what he was doing raising kids, and he learned it along the way. He's a lot better now. Me and my father have a beautiful, strong relationship that I can cherish today.
In elementary, that's when I started, my troubles began really. I was in and out of elementary school. Then I stayed back a couple grades. I passed that and went to middle school. I did my 6th grade year. My 7th grade year came around. I did a couple months at the middle school, then I got kicked out and sent to Horizons. I was at Horizons for about 6 months, left Horizons, got my 8th grade year. 8th grade year is when it really got bad. That's when I got arrested for the first time. And then after that, I met Pedro, graduated 8th grade, went to high school, did about 2 months of high school, got kicked out again. And then ever since then, I haven't really been in school, but I've been doing my GED, getting my license. I've had a couple good jobs actually. I don't know really, cause I had everything as a kid really, but it just wasn't the love, like the support that a friend's supposed to have. It just really wasn't there all through, pretty much throughout my life. As a kid, I had both my parents in my life, in and out of Florida and South Carolina with my auntie and stuff. And as I was getting older, my parents, they were splitting up, but you know, they were still both in my life. And then now, I was, say 13, 14, I started getting in trouble. My first time getting locked up, I was about 14. And then I only had to do 14 days in there. My second time, I had to do 21 days.
One of the biggest things that we see as an issue is the lack of a male role model or father figure in the lives of these kids. When we ask them, what do you think you need in your life in order for you not to, 1, have made this mistake in the first place, or 2, to not go down this path and commit these things again, the first thing they say is, I don't have a dad, I don't have a role model, I don't have a mentor, I don't have somebody that 1, checks me, or 2, checks on me. And so it's important for us to always make sure that we provide that role model experience for those kids that are coming through our reporting center.
We know a lot of the youth in our area, we've known that there are a majority of the kids that we've interacted with come from fatherless households. And so it has caused us to wonder about the correlation or causation between, and the complex interrelationship between fatherlessness, poverty, and crime, and success metrics, beyond your teen years, education, college, employment, entering the middle class, whatever that means in our time. But it's something that we're really concerned about, and it's part of the broader dialogue in our neighborhood about is fatherlessness the main cause of some of these concerns that we're seeing among the youth in our neighborhood? Or is poverty the main cause? And there's a lot of people saying poverty is only a cause of those concerns among youth to the extent that poverty causes fatherlessness. And fatherlessness is still one of the main kind of drivers or causes of some of those unfortunate and crime-related and violence-related metrics among the youth in and that's just neighborhood. So that's just like where I live. That isn't even citywide. But among a lot of the youth microchurches, youth ministries that we're interacting with, mentoring ministries, Mashari Mentors, Mom Africana, Just Initiative that does a lot of education and housing stuff among families that are struggling. again, there's like a pretty broad correlation between some of these unfortunate circumstances that can cause future problems in family systems and among teens and children, and fatherlessness. So I think it's definitely like a trend we're noticing in the city.
The most important thing they need, I feel like they need to be told that we love them. They need those pats in the back, because I feel like if you beat something down for so long, they're gonna feel like traumatized on the inside, like they're not motivated to do anything. But if you lift them up, you pat them on the back, you tell them you love them, you tell them I'm proud of you, you tell them I believe in you, you tell them you can do this. I'm behind you, I'm with you, I'll walk with you. It gives them hope. It gives them a sense of drive, like they want to do it.
Faith-based ministry, I believe, is the answer to a lot of the problems that these youth face. As I said earlier, I've been involved with group homes, mentoring, juvenile detention centers, different programs that use different behavior modification models, right, to control behaviors. The issue with a lot of those programs is that they don't focus on the character. They don't focus on the heart of the issue. So a lot of things these young people face, it's an issue where it comes from the heart, right? They're not feeling loved, they're not feeling accepted, there's no belonging there, there's no community there. It's just do what you do, get a reward, and move on to the next step. Biblical-based mentorship gives them the foundation, right? It gives them a sense of purpose, right? It creates identity in them, not through the eyes of the world, but through the eyes of Christ. And that's the most important place that they can be in. When they discover who they are, right? Then they develop who they are, then they begin to display who they are. So not only are they being changed, but they can change their own peer groups, right? They can be responsible now for their own communities, right? So that can have a great impact all the way around when you really think about it. So I believe that faith-based mentoring is really key to building these kids' identity and really honing in on who they are and getting to the heart of the matter.
Over the past, like again, as I said earlier, over the past couple of years, we launched our reporting center. So we're working with the kids who are making these mistakes, getting arrested. They're in the juvenile justice system, or they're prone or at risk of going into it. And we've been able to connect them with mentors. I myself serve as a mentor to kids. My staff serves as mentors. And not because it's our job, it's because we care, right? We know that there's just so many kids. Over the last 2 years, we've had 164 boys ages from 11 to 18 to come to our center. And when I say to come through, that means that we've had 164 kids that have been arrested and charged with some type of offense. That doesn't account for the 1,000+ kids who've actually done stuff and not gotten caught, right? So we know that there's so many more kids that we need to serve.
I started most of my career in the North, but the position I was probably the most pleased with and happy with, I worked in the Central Region, the executive director of Charles Bird Academy. And my role there was the executive director. My impact on children's lives is basically not only with the kids, staff as well, trying to be a mentor, setting an example for them. We spoke before about kids coming from fatherless homes. Not that they don't want it, they actually do want someone to mentor, guide, and show them. So my most fulfilling role was being an executive director, mentoring kids, showing them, encouraging them, showing them, hey, you have an opportunity, you can do this, you can make positive decisions, you're bigger than your environment, and just leading by example with them.
We've definitely seen mentorship as a solution. Even some of those that I just mentioned. Mom Africana is a grassroots organization that's trying to address concerns among youth primarily through the vehicle of mentorship. Just Initiative, trying to come at poverty and crime through the primary vehicle of mentorship. And Urban Youth Justice, seeing like an amazing amount of fruit and development through the primary vehicle of mentorship. And I would even say there are situations that we've encountered of youth and families that enter into like unfortunate family circumstances, maturity circumstances, development circumstances, where there is a father present. There's totally a father there, but that father is not functioning as a mentor. So it's almost like fatherlessness isn't totally the problem. It's the way that we identify the problem. It's like lack of mentorship is the problem. And fathers are supposed to play that role. That's the thing. So like addressing fatherlessness with fathers fathers or father figures is the objective, as long as we always understand that fathers function as mentors. If we just like put random guides, men guides in the lives of people, but they're not actually functioning as mentors, I don't think we're addressing the problem. Because there are kids who have a father present, like a biological father present, but they experience the same situations because they don't have a mentor. So they're still living a fatherless family system.
My role with UIJ, I'm actually one of the lead mentors. Man, I'm definitely making a difference. Just pouring into those guys, those teenagers. I actually sit in the same seats that they sit in. So by me going into these facilities and helping, man, it's making a great impact. And actually one of the facilities that I lead, I actually did time in that facility when I was 14 years old. So that's a very special place to me. Like I sit in the exact same seats they sit in.
Mentorship plays a huge role in kids' lives, especially kids we serve. Once again, they don't have those examples in their home. And just because they don't have it doesn't mean it's not needed. So when a mentor comes in and guides and shows these kids the better part, or just how to do things the correct way, they cling to it. I've seen countless kids come into our programs, mentors cling on to them, show them love, show them just a hug, encouragement, or just some type of advice on this is how you handle this situation. And they get out of the program and just do amazing things without just calling the names. Get plenty of phone calls or emails or hits on social media of kids just saying, hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank the program. I want to thank some of the staff, the mentors, and whether it's college, whether it's a job, whether it's a family, and they, give praise to the mentors for helping show them the way to do things the right way.
Some of the challenges is I understand that we're gonna get pushback, and some of the challenges is just like you spending so much time, you pouring so much into something, and then they go out and self-destruction. They end up dying. They end up back in another facility as we travel and see them somewhere else. So that's some of the challenges. They not getting it, but I understand. But some of the pros of it is just like it's fulfilling. For me, it's fulfilling. Like it's just absolutely fulfilling. I know that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I can do something and not be fulfilled. But when I speak to these juveniles, when I'm mentoring them, when I'm pouring into them, it's just like it's so fulfilling, so refreshing. This one kid named Juan, the team made a trip to New Mexico, and he got back in contact with me through my music, through my actual number, and I talked to this kid every week for at least 6 months straight while he was in work release, waiting to be released. He got out, he actually got a job. I helped him just by conversation and prayer to rekindle his relationship with his father. His mom was actually serving time to rekindle his relationship with his mother, and just to see him get out and reunite with them and just love on them and try to grow. And also just mentoring my own son, because I'm a firm believer if the household is not intact, then it's gonna lead to the outside. It's not gonna be right. So mentoring my 13-year-old son it's been great seeing him like engaging into scripture, engaging into actually serving. Just it's a blessing.
Kids who are released from the program and they get all the tools from the program and they go back and reoffend, it's usually because those kids, they have the tools now, but when they get out, they don't have the backing, that support. So they go back into that same environment where there's not a lot of resources, there's not a lot of encouragement, there's not a lot of positive examples. So they tend to, even though they stay strong in the beginning, they end up falling back into those old habits because those old habits are comfortable and they don't have someone saying, no, hey, this is the right way. And those are the kids who usually reoffend.
I had a tough case. I had a 13-year-old kid who unfortunately brought a gun to school. And he didn't take it inside the school, he actually left it outside. But he got a hold of a firearm because he told kids, stop fighting me, stop jumping me. They were jumping this kid every other day, and they were putting it on Facebook, they were putting it on YouTube, right? And the kid just, had enough. So he got his hand on a gun and he said, if you bother me again, I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna shoot. Well, they jumped him again and he ended up going to the school. Now, fortunately, he left the gun outside and he put it on a tire, but he told someone when he got there. So front page news, 13-year-old kid brings a gun to middle school. Everyone's writing this kid off. He's a horrible person. This was not too far beyond, past the Parkland shooting that we had in Florida. So we had the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, law enforcement saying, we got to find out why this happened. I mean, the kid didn't take the gun inside. Now, had he done it, it would have been a whole different story. But they said, we need somebody to take a deep dive and talk to this kid. So they asked me to talk to him. I go meet him in the juvenile detention center, and as soon as I see him, he's a scared 13-year-old kid. And I talk to him and say, I just want to know what happened. And he said, I was tired of getting beat up. So I was able to work with the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, and say, let me work with this kid, I'll mentor him. Shortly after that, maybe about a week later, we had a community event, and I had a couple of bounce houses out, and I had a whole bunch of kids out there, probably about 100 kids. This kid stayed probably 3 hours by himself without a care in the world, just inside a bounce house, just jumping up and down. It didn't take me 3 hours to realize that all this kid wants is just to be treated like a normal kid. And so every single day I would talk to him. We were able to get him back in school about a year later. And then he quickly, shortly after they said, Mr. Freddie, I don't know if high school is for me. I don't know if traditional school is for me. I just want to finish. He got his GED at 16 years of age, not because he couldn't make it in school, but because he said that wasn't his environment. But he knew that getting a GED would still allow him to get a normal, have a normal life. He's since got his GED. He's gotten a full-time job. He's doing well in his life, and he was one of our success stories. The kid got tickets to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. I've never been to the Super Bowl, but this kid, the NFL saw what he was doing and saw that he was really doing what he was supposed to do. And he, his mom, his family, they went out there because they saw that this is a kid who made a tragic mistake, but it was based on certain circumstances. And all he needed was a mentor, a man or someone in his life to say, I care about you, kid. And now his life is all on the right track. And so all it takes is for our men to step up, come to the plate and say, we're gonna stay with these kids for the long haul.
You have the opportunity to accept Jesus in your heart, to repent and to turn away from your wicked ways and fully humble yourself before God, not before us, but before God. I know you have a great purpose with them. I know that you're going to do great things in each and every one of their lives.
I think from what we know of UIJ and from what we know of Pedro and his team, I just think the going straight into juvenile detention facilities, several of them, not just one, but across the region. And a lot of times you're going straight to where a lot of the kids who early in life or even maybe later in life are experiencing some of the effects of fatherlessness and are sometimes acting out of that fatherlessness, are coming into circumstances that could have been prevented by good, strong mentorship. Urban Youth Justice isn't sitting back and waiting for kids and teens and youth to come to them looking for mentorship. Urban Youth Justice is actually going to the perfect place to find kids who need it, and are a lot of times hungry for it because they're at the end of the rope. It's really difficult, I would say almost impossible, to convince someone in their youth or in their teen years that they need mentorship if they themselves haven't decided that they need that and are looking for that. It's a really difficult thing to do. But actually going to juvenile detention facilities, a lot of times you're finding kids who want it and know they need it and are hungry for it. And are going there, I think, with volunteers and with men who are really exemplary and well qualified to offer it. Trained, and men who are actually feel some sense of calling or passion to provide that. Not just to check off like some volunteer boxes or something like that, or to get college credit or something like that, or to get paid, but men who actually feel a sense of calling and passion to fill that gap of fatherlessness in the lives of teens who are hungry for it, and to not just be another guide in their life, but to be a spiritual father.
Nightlife was a youth group that Pedro was one of the heads for. It's twice a week. Sundays were for kids, Wednesdays were for everybody. And it was a place where a bunch of youth could get together and have a good time, and then right at the end, right before we were all about to leave, we'd sit down and we'd talk about scripture. We would talk about God, we would talk about our faith, and we would go over a lot of scripture. When I was younger, I was raised to be Christian, and I had beliefs of that, but they didn't really come true. I didn't see them as that. As you could say, I didn't have faith. With the help of my mentor, he showed me the side of faith that I could have. Nightlife was a really big example of that, and their talks that they used to have helped me get through that. It showed me that I had hope, that there could be a higher power, and I invested myself into that. I read scripture, I stuck by Pedro, I did everything I could to see the brighter side of the world.
I had probably a week left, that's when I met Pedro Rodriguez. Since then, he's pretty much changed my life since then. I haven't been in any type of trouble since then. He's putting me on the right path. I'm working on getting my license. I haven't been in no type of trouble since I've met him. And then he's put my life on the right track. And now, as the family's getting older, we're going through more problems and stuff. But we're just hanging in there, and because of Pedro, I wouldn't be where I'm at now pretty much without Pedro Rodriguez. I feel it's important to have a mentor in your life. They can get you on the right track and help you do stuff you never thought you could do. As of right now, I'm working on getting my license and working on getting my GED. If it wasn't for Pedro, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I feel as kids that was in my position, they should take in as they should get a mentor and start thinking about stuff like that. It'll really help them in the future.
I'm really excited. First of all, I want to give a shout out to my brother Pedro. We met about 3 years ago through some mutual friends of ours that have another ministry called Every Youth, Every Facility. And actually my pastor, Pastor Tommy at Crossover Church, connected us. So we developed a relationship. But what I like about Pedro is that he's very passionate, right? It's very rare you meet people that have your same passion for what you want to do. So we knew right away we was going to do something big. And he's just like me. He grew up in a place where he was doing a lot of mentoring and counseling, therapy for different programs, and saw a lot of those programs had some characteristics, had some principles, but the overall base of it wasn't based on faith, right? It was based on somebody else's ideas, right? Somebody else's theology about what's right and what's wrong. So when we got together, we said, man, we got to make this totally faith-based for our youth to be successful. So what we decided to do was start something called Urban Youth Training Center, where we literally training young men to be men from a godly perspective, right? The center is going to start at Crossover Church, and we're going to have classes which will target their life skills, right? It will target job shadowing, give them an opportunity to create things, because we know that God's a creator, right? So when kids are creating, they're at their best. So we're gonna give them opportunities to maybe have their own water company, selling just waters, or just making t-shirts or doing music, or something that will spark that interest in them so they won't go out and reoffend. They won't go out and try to do things to get money because now they're creating. So in that program, we're going to have that. Also, it's going to be all spiritual based, right? Because we're going to be based in the church, right? So they're going to have all the things that normal kids, not normal kids, but kids that are members of the church have as well too. And what I really love is that we're going to have mentors. So every young person is going to be assigned a mentor, where it just won't be in the center, but they'll be able to connect with them outside the center. So say if they're having problems in school or having problems at home, or they just need somebody to talk to, right? Somebody to pal around with, somebody to teach them how to tie a tie, or a young lady how to dress for an interview. These are things that we want to tackle, not just in a spiritual sense, but in a practical way as well too, right? So they can be leaders. That's our main goal, right? Is to produce leaders for the next generation. So I'm excited about that program that's coming. It's called Urban Youth Training Center. And we're on our way, and we're looking to launch January 2022. Whether we get 1 kid, 5 kids, 10 kids, we know God's going to send them because this is His mission and His purpose for His children.
We have a new opportunity. We won a grant, and we're going to be looking for 50 to 100 men, and I call it my army of men. We have a few mentors, but we need more. We need our churches to help us out. We need our civic groups. We need our fraternities. We need our fraternal organizations. We need men to come to the fold to pour into the lives of these kids. And we don't just want people to show up for a special event. When we say the word mentor, we mean you're going to be there with this kid. You're going to celebrate the wins with him. But you're also going to be that person that he's going to call when he has a loss in his life, when he's struggling in his life, when the staff aren't available, they're able to connect with this mentor, and that mentor is going to stick with this kid for the long haul. Most of the kids who come in our program have had so many people come in their life and leave their life because the funding dried up, because they had to get off work, because they had to go to their families, because they had XYZ going on. We need people that's willing to stick in with these kids for the long haul.
My affiliation knowledge of urban youth justice, a few years back, while overseeing a program in Charles Britt, a young man, very handsome, strapping young man, Mr. Pedro Rodriguez, came in, and he gave me the spiel on, the services that him and his team provided. And one thing that I loved about him, and this is no disrespect to other religious groups, but they didn't just come in, reading just scriptures, saying do this. They live by example, and they reach the kids because they meet the kids on their level. The testimonies that they tell are things that kids can relate to. The music, the style. Mr. Rodriguez, I joke with him about every time I see him, he got a new pair of J's on. The same way the kids see him, they say, "Oh man, so I can love the Lord, I can serve the Lord, and I'm not, suit and tie, so to speak. I can, make an impact." They gravitate towards that. I think they're an awesome organization, and I love that they're real, that the kids know. Now, kids, if you're not real, a kid will let you know. They'll tell you straight up. But the way that kids flock to them, they love them, and still spreading the message of the gospel and helping kids turn their lives around and using the gospel as the foundation. I just love the organization.
Urban Youth Justice many years ago affiliated with the Underground Network as like one of the microchurches in the network. So partnering alongside hundreds of other microchurches and leaders to see the kingdom come in every pocket around the Tampa Bay region. And I met you, Pedro, several years ago, and as somebody already doing something, pursuing what you felt called to, but not feeling like you were a little bit isolated, needed some support, needed some help, and we as servants love what you're doing and happy to help what Urban Youth Justice is doing in juvenile detention facilities and in the lives of youth all around this, not just the region, but even the state.
My whole entire life has shifted. I'm doing stuff that I never even dreamed I'd be doing. I am currently sitting on my fourth year working for Chili's, and I'm next in line for management, so that's good. My faith is definitely stronger, and my perspective of the world is definitely much brighter.
When I get done getting my license and when I start driving and stuff, I'm gonna work on getting my GED, and then who knows what's for the future, you know? When I get my GED, I'm gonna start looking back, trying to get into school. I might see what colleges have ahead of me, and then just go from there. Try to get my diploma and just graduate from college, really, and get back on the right track in life.
Next in my life, I'm definitely going to get my culinary arts degree, and I'm going to take cooking to a next level. I want to open a mom and pop shop with my mom and my parents, and my mom and dad. And I definitely want to do something on the lines that Pedro is doing and reach out to children that need guidance, that need extra help like I was given. I want to be able to give that back.
It was around my 8th grade, around 8th grade year, my second time getting locked up, that's when I met Pedro. I was around, say 15 maybe. I was around 15, I'm now 18. And then throughout these years, I've been getting jobs and getting my life back on track. And me and Pedro, we haven't really been in touch, but we always been, in contact with each other. If anything, we'd always been in contact. I don't really see him as a mentor no more. He's more like, a second family to me. Cause from 3 years, the 3 years I spent with him is like 10 years I spent with my real family or something. We done built a real close bond together.
What advice would I give the youth? I would say it's not just bad. The way that I used to see it is everything was bad. The world was kind of out to get me. You gotta understand that the person that's trying to be your mentor is trying to help you. He's trying his best to do anything and everything he can to bring you to the light and give you a better future and a better life for yourself and for everyone around you. And in the future, they're not just gonna be your mentors if you keep that relationship. They will become more. They will become basically family. And it's just really good to do it. There's really good relationships you can have, and you can 100% better yourself.
When I was locked up, I was thinking in my head, because I was, kind of close to people that I was locked up with. I was like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm not gonna see what he has, planned for me. I kind of thought about it for a little bit before he left, and I'm like, I shouldn't really take that, because if I don't, I know I'm back in here about a week later or something, and ever since then, I haven't been locked up. So my advice to the youth is take the advice. You never know, really, what life has planned ahead of you if you never take the advice, really.
In our reporting center, we're working with three different kinds of kids. One, our 21-day kids, our kids who are first going into the juvenile justice system. Two, our second population are kids who are on probation. And over the last year, we've started really getting a deep dive, and we're working with these kids who are getting arrested on these gun or weapon-related offenses. No matter which one of those buckets these kids fit in, 9 times out of 10, they don't have a direct father figure or a mentor in their life. And so it's important that we reach out and get people involved in this effort. One of the strategies of doing that is reaching out to our faith-based community, looking at churches who really are they mean what they say, and they say what they mean. And when we meet with our faith-based leaders and we say, look, we need mentors for these kids, I'm looking for men to show up. I need these men to show these young boys what it means to be a man of faith, a man of principle, and a man of value. The way we do that is we have men to come over to our center, and the first thing they do is they sit down with the kids. They don't talk about who they are. They don't talk about their background. They don't talk about how smart they are. They don't talk about their career fields. The first thing I want them to do is pick up a PlayStation or Xbox controller and start hanging out and playing the game with the kids. Because if you can't get down to their level, how do you expect to lift them up to a higher level, right? So we have to meet the kids where they're at. Our faith-based community is critical because, one, they bring that faith-based element. Two, they understand the plight of some of the kids that we serve. And then three, they serve as that ground, that emotional support that some of our kids just lack right now.
My hope for the youth is to really understand who they are, right? To understand that God loves them. It's so powerful when you get the idea of, wow, somebody really loves me, right? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. Because I made mistakes, that's not who I am. So I want them to get a good sense of identity, right? So they can be productive, right? So they can go out and change the world, right? They can go out and impact their communities. So my hope for them is to be better, even better than what we were doing, right? So they can pass the baton and pull somebody up, that's going through a tough time that they're going through as well. So again, it's just a beautiful thing when God calls you to this ministry to use you in that capacity. And I'm blessed because I have so many great people around me, right? That I don't have to know it all, I don't have to figure it out all. And some of these kids that come in, you have to deal with them on an individual basis. Every kid is not the same. So that's what I love about biblical-based mentorship, is that we focus on the individual, not just in a group. But the cool thing is, once they get it, right? And they're able to affect the group. So again, we just want to build leaders. We just want to see them succeed. We just want to see them be the best that God called them to be. That's my hope for these young people.
So it's been an honor to work with such great leaders who I had the privilege of interviewing for this project. I've worked alongside them, whether it be at a facility, whether it be as a part of a missionary network, or at Urban Youth Justice, going into juvenile facilities. And these men have also impacted my life and many of the youth that we work with. So these interviews were conducted to go alongside the research that has already been put together, and as evidence of my claim, where fatherlessness has ravished and left these young kids to make poor choices, to go into what's called survival mode. And we come alongside them as not just mentors, but faith-based mentors, men of God, women of God, who understand the power in having faith in God, and how that changes the way we think and we respond, and how the lens in which we look at life. Many mentorship programs have proven to be successful. So in closing, we see in many sites that speak about fatherlessness, over 20 million, which is over 30% of youth across the nation have been affected by fatherlessness. 30 to 50 to 75% of them are more likely to commit crimes, drop out of high schools, do drugs, become teen dads or moms. And then you see the statistics on faith-based mentorship. 50 to 80% of kids who have a faith-based mentor are more likely to stay in school and go on to college, be successful, commit less crime, not commit crimes at all, and continue to live the life that they were created to live. So there's many mentorship programs. Mentorship is not something new to anyone. For the most part, people have heard of mentorship programs in every community. More of them are being created in the schools and community programs. But faith-based mentorship is the game changer, because this is where we start to depend outside of our own limitations on God and what He can do through us and what He designed us for, and how a man of God or a woman of God who has already experienced this transformation can now give you hope that regardless of what mistakes some of these young men or women have made, that there's still a plan and a purpose for their lives. So with all that has been said today, I am a big proponent of faith-based mentorship in every community, in churches, in schools, that would actually impact a kid's life. Even young adults. Quite often we think when we reach a certain age we no longer need a mentor. And sometimes when I ask this question in a room full of people, they've never had one. And so it's something that we highly recommend. We encourage people to seek out a mentor. If you're a single parent who's not understanding what to do with your teenage child who's giving you some trouble, find them a mentorship program that can really impact their lives before it's too late. So if you're a woman or a man and you're wondering, what is it that I should be doing? What is it that God called me to do? And you feel a heart, you feel pressed to reach youth in the juvenile justice system. Let me tell you some of the things that I bumped into when I go to these facilities and I ask directors, like, who else is coming in here and you hear the answer that no one else is. No one else is coming to visit these kids and mentor them or speak life, give them hope. They're the forgotten, they're the invisible. And I think it's important that as the church, as community leaders, whether, no matter what you've been through, to step in and reach these kids, because they're our next generation of leaders, and they're dying young. They're perishing and they're dying without hope. They're losing any type of future plans. They don't have any goals. I had a young 18-year-old who told me if I thought it was too late for him because of the crime he committed, he didn't think that there was much left after that. So it's important for us to go in there and visit these kids, pour into them, love on them, mentor them, disciple them, and watch God work through you and see the transformation that can happen in their life that you can be a part of saving.